Welcome back to the Grow Your Business Today program. I'm your host, Darswell Rogers. This is a special program. It's being pre-recorded. I have a longtime friend of mine, a fraternity brother, Mr. Michael Rhim. He's a principal of PRM Consulting in Washington, D.C. We're talking about retirement planning and retirement plans. And Mike, where I'd really like to come back is to talk about this notion of starting your retirement planning early and the benefits of starting early. Frequently, people in their 20s or 30s, they just are not appreciative of the benefits of beginning this process early on. And so if you can help with that, that'd be awesome.
Sure, yes. In my prior job at TIA, I managed several people, including financial planners. And there were times when I would sit in on meetings with participants that are retiring. And one of the biggest things they all say is, I wish I would have started earlier than I did. And I wish I would have put in more money. And I remember a couple saying one day that if you guys do anything, talk to young people about getting started as soon as they can. Because what happens is that the money grows, it compounds, it grows over time. So the younger you are in getting started, even as a number like $100 a month that you're putting away, and you look at a projected interest rate, and we still use a number of 6% over time, because the stock market in particular has averaged much more than 6%. It's really averaged over 10, 11% prior to this year, for example, but it's averaged a lot bigger number over a 30, 40-year period. So even if you're looking at $100 a month at a 6% compounded rate over 30 years, that's a significant amount of money that you put away in a retirement plan. And so we always encourage people to start as soon as you can, especially if you're in your 20s and you're just starting out at a job. The challenge today is student loans, obviously. And so that's one of the reasons why I know the Biden administration has put together opportunities to potentially pay loans off. The focus of that is not necessarily just to get rid of loans, is to allow younger employees the opportunity to have more money to invest in retirement plans. So it's not just, the administration is not doing that just to say, hey, we're going to give you, and the reason is, the biggest single reason that a lot of younger people are not in a retirement plan is because they can't afford it, because they're paying student loans. So it's like, if I'm making $300 a month or whatever, $3,000 a month, I'm using that money to pay my loans, not to put in a retirement plan. So the younger you start, the better it is. And we've seen that time and time again, given the compounding. If you're in a fund that has interest, guaranteed interest on it, or an interest-bearing account, the compounding effect really grows that money. Or if you're in an equity or stock type of account or mutual fund account, history has shown over the years, those accounts do well. And so the younger you are, the more time you have to take advantage of that. As you get older, you want to switch a little bit more, not be as risky, if you will, as you get older, because you'll need that money much sooner.
So there's a statistic around compounding that I used to have it on the tip of my tongue, but I have the basic concepts in place. And the idea was, if you started, this is a hypothetical, but it's valid. So you take that 6% rate that you were talking about. So if at the age of 18, you decide to put away X amount of dollars, let's say $100 a month, we'll stick with the scenario you had. You're going to put away $100 a month, and it's going to be at a 6% interest rate. And you put away $100 a month for the next 10 years. So from 18 to 28, you put away $100 a month, and it is compounding at 6%. And then you stop. You don't put any more money in that retirement account. And then at age 28, another person starts investing at age 28, and they put away $100 a month from 28 to for the next 20 years.
Right.
The person who stopped who put money in only for 10 years and didn't put away any more money will have more money 30 years from now than the person who started at 28 and put in money for 20 years. Right. So starting early has a huge, huge impact on the amount of money you have over the long term.
That is absolutely correct, Darswell, and I know exactly what you're doing. And you're saying, I remember I used to use a slide in my presentation that showed exactly that
Yeah,
statistic, is
yeah.
that you put it in for 10 and stop, the compounding number, the compound of that number continues to grow as the person just starting out. So that's really one of the main benefits of starting early, because your accumulated value over time can grow significantly. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the stock market is currently is very volatile,
Mhm.
and I can think of all sorts of people, people with graduate degrees, people with PhDs, people out of undergrad, but that they don't understand the nature of investing. And when the stock market starts moving around, they freak out and they take their money out.
Right.
And so then they have locked in these losses.
Right.
Can we talk about, if the money is for retirement, you should not be worrying about what happens with
Right.
it anytime soon. Can you
Right.
just share some
Yeah.
concepts there?
Yeah. I got during COVID, for those people that were in retirement plans, they'll recognize this. In March of 2020, when COVID hit, the bottom dropped out of the market. It was horrendous. I mean, it was terrible. But then in 2020, near the latter part of the year, it came back. Had a young woman who was a VP, by the way, of human resources, who moved $400,000 at when her account dropped from 525, I think she said, down to 400,000. When it reached 400,000, she transferred over to uh, uh, uh,
Something safe.
right, yeah, money market account. She transferred to a money market account. So I said, and she left it there. And I said, why? And at the time, the woman was like 56 years old. I said, why did you do that? She said, oh, the market was dropping and I was freaking out and I didn't want to see it get any lower. I said, well, let me ask this question. When do you plan to retire? Oh, I got at least another 10 years. And I said, do you realize that when you move that money out, and when you did, you moved it at a loss? You never want to move money out at a loss because it's long term. You've still got another 10 years. It's going to come back. And let me show you why I'm saying that. I mean, history has shown that for years. And so, sure enough, in 2021, it came back before the year even ended. And she never moved that money out of the money market. And so I talked to her early this year, as a matter of fact, and she said, yeah, you were right. I shouldn't have done it. Now I see the market. She's like, I wish I would have talked to you beforehand. And you don't panic. The biggest thing is when the market drops, you do not panic. You need to have, on any investing, you really need to have a philosophy. And that philosophy is, if this is for the long term, there's going to be volatility. When the market's down, there's going to be times when the market's up. But let me also give you a quick insight. When the market is down, it's a sale. So right now, if you're in an equity or mutual fund type of account that's lower now, it's going to eventually go back up so you can buy more shares of that while it's lower with the same money you were buying shares of before when it was higher. So you were buying less shares. So now, so you're a mutual, I'll use any mutual fund. Let's say Fidelity Standard & Poor's 500. One unit of that it's a net asset value, but let's say one unit of that, I'm making these numbers up, is $50. So you're putting in $100 a month. You're buying 2 shares at $50. The market drops. It drops all the way down to $25. You're still putting in $100. So instead of 2 shares, you're now getting 4 shares. So when it goes down, you're able to buy more. So that's why you don't panic. It's kind of like at times you do want it to go down to take advantage of that. And that's called, really, as you're putting money in, dollar cost averaging. So you're always putting money in as the market is up, market's down. But dollar cost averaging allows you to average out that money over the long term.
The bottom line is that you don't have to be sophisticated at all to grasp this. You make an investment plan, you're going to put in a certain amount of dollars, and you keep doing it regardless of what's happening. And
Right.
unless you're within, let's say, 5 years of retirement, there's really not a whole lot of need to do a whole lot of thinking.
Right.
Now, what's important to understand is most financial institutions, your banks, insurance companies, investment banks have people that you can talk to about this. So if you've got a banking relationship, most likely there's somebody there that you can talk to. I'm a big fan of at least considering several options and just not going with the first person you talk to, because people have their own, motivations. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
So you want to get educated. This is a wonderful opportunity to get smarter. I'm curious, Mike, do you have any websites or resources that you have sent people to that maybe want to know more about this? Because I know this what we're talking about. Generally, unless you're an employer, if they're an employer, you'd love to talk to them.
Right.
But for the individual, is there any place you would kind of tend to send people, or is it just go to your local financial institution?
Yeah, that's a very open question. It's a good question. Obviously, yeah, you would start with your local institution. There are a lot of websites that employees can go to. There's actually a good friend of mine who's a columnist, the Washington Post, Michelle Singletary. Michelle Singletary has written books. And the reason I bring her name up, she looks at retirement, she looks at investing in general, the finance reporter for the Washington Post, and she has her own column. She looks at these issues very simplistically. She really looks and breaks them down. So, if you Google Michelle Singletary, she's really, really good and has really focused a lot on issues that are very helpful to people in terms of retirement planning. But there's Dave Ramsey, there's other people out there that people look at. There's no one place to go, to be honest with you. It really comes down to what a person's looking for. But when I mention people like Michelle or Dave Ramsey or others, they provide guidance that's very useful from a budgeting standpoint to paying for kids' education with 529 plans to retirement investing. And so that's a good place to start with looking at people like that, Googling them, doing some research, etc.
Awesome, thank you. So I get a lot of folks who come to me, not so much in the last 12 months or so, wanted to talk to me about crypto this, crypto that. Everybody's crypto. What insights or thoughts do you have about the cryptocurrency craze?
Yeah, well, it's crashing right now. It's in the in the early days, some people made money off of in the crypto area, in Bitcoin and those kind of things. This is a very speculative investment in looking at crypto. You'll find no retirement plans in this country. I know a company had tried to look at potentially making the crypto as an option. They won't even look at crypto as an investment option in retirement plans, which should tell you a little bit right there, because employers, they have people like me or investment advisors really bringing up what's the latest thing that should be offered to employees. So it's not a good thing in regular retirement plans. For personal investments, I always tell people this: if you have money that typically you want to go to the casino with, or money that you don't mind losing, then crypto is the way to go. You might get lucky, just like in a casino, but the probability is over the long term, you may not. So I don't have anything against crypto, but it's a sophisticated type of investment that you really need to do your homework on. You really only need to use money in crypto that you're putting at risk. Now, somebody can say, well, heck, I'm putting it all at risk if I'm in a retirement plan. But again, that's why I mentioned what I just did before. An employer is monitoring your investment menu for you. People like me or investment advisors are constantly monitoring the appropriateness of funds on the platform. So even if a fund is not doing well, we're monitoring that against other similar type funds. Crypto doesn't have that. So you could be yeah, you can lose money in a retirement plan, but it's still being monitored. Crypto, there's no monitoring value associated with that. So the risk you're taking is a tremendous, tremendous risk. So we typically say that do your homework for those that want to. Have people made money? Yes. Have people lost money in it? Yes, twice over. And it's an investment that we typically say go in very cautiously with your eyes open, know what you're doing, but know that it's just like going to the casino, and the casino wins more times than you do.
Yep. So as we begin to wind this down, I think you mentioned to me that there maybe were some new types of retirement funds that are out there that people are considering.
Yeah, I've been hired to do, I was hired a couple of months ago to do a special review on something called ESG funds, which stands for Environment, Social, and Governance Retirement Funds. So there are investment options that focus on ESG. So there's mutual funds that have put together investments that said, okay, we're only going to invest in companies, for example, that don't produce guns or alcohol, or take a social position on having social governance where they have a diverse board. Or so there are funds that are actually out there now that are doing this, and the funds that look at the environment and climate and the environment. And
Right.
so these funds have started to become popular, interestingly, amongst young people. So you now can, in certain employers, and it has to be, the employer would put this on their platform, but in certain employers will go to advisor firms and say, hey, look, we want to add an ESG to our platform. And so the investment advisor will say, okay, we're going to go out and find some funds and explain the type of fund it is, but it's held to the same standard of any of the other funds on that platform. But what we're seeing now is that there's been reports out that younger people, millennials, Gen Zs, are basically saying, hey, I don't mind investing in an ESG fund if it's going to help the environment or it has a social tilt to it, as long as its performance is still good. Well, they're pretty strong, because at the end of the day, you're in a plan to make money, and the expenses of that fund are not that bad. I would not mind putting my money there. So more employers are hearing about that. Now, in the Trump administration, they had some concerns about ESG funds in retirement plans, and they put some rules out that made employers say, well, wait a minute, maybe we don't need to offer these funds if the administration is saying that they need to be held to a different standard. When the Biden administration came in, they said, we're going to take away the Trump rules, and we're going to provide new rules on ESGs. Just yesterday, the Department of Labor outlined the appropriate use of ESGs in retirement plans. And then basically, I haven't had a chance to go read it fully, but basically they said, yes, ESG funds should be considered like any other fund on a platform, and making sure that you're evaluating those funds, and you can use the ESG criteria of environment, social, and governance as one factor to determine whether or not the fund is appropriate for employees. So it really allowed employers to now say, hey, maybe we should take a look at this. So it'd be great to have a fund that focuses on the environment and provides solid investment returns too, and employees want it. So it's brand new, so ESG funds itself are not new. The recent DOL ruling on that is new. And the other thing, and this is not new, and I'll say this and we'll leave it at that, but we're seeing a lot of employees coming into a plan. I mentioned about fear earlier and not knowing where to put their money. A lot of employers have what's called either target date or life cycle funds. And for new employees, these funds are actually typically very good, because what it does is it says, okay, you pick a year closest to when you're going to turn 65. So if you're 30 years old today, you're going to be 65 in another 30 something years. So you're going to choose a fund that will be the 2050 fund or the 2060 fund. So it would be target date 2060, 2050. This fund is diverse for you. It has percentage in equities, has some in fixed, it has money in real estate. So it's a very diverse portfolio with a larger part in equities or mutual fund type of accounts. As you get older, it automatically rebalances for you as you get closer to that 2060 or 2055 date. So it automatically becomes more conservative. Mm-hmm. And so for employees that are coming in and don't know what to do and don't know where to put their money, these life cycle funds have become a lifesaver, because it's like, look, you can actually set it and forget it and not have to worry about changing, because it automatically rebalances. So the target date or life cycle funds have become very, very popular.
Awesome. So we're talking to Mike Rhim. He's a principal at PRM Consulting, focused on retirement planning. as we wind things up, Mike, any kind of final thoughts? I guess I'll first off for businesses that may be considering putting in a plan, and then folks who might be curious about a career that would look something like yours.
Okay. So for businesses, actually now is a really good time to evaluate retirement plans because the business is very competitive these days. We find companies their costs are coming downstream. They're cutting their margins to be competitive. So now if you don't have a retirement plan, now's a good time. If an employer does have a retirement plan, now's a good time to do a due diligence because you can get better rates. We just finished a project real quick where the plan was charged, I'll just pick, this being charged $60,000 a year. We did a due diligence. The incumbent dropped their fee from $60,000 down to $30,000.
Whoa.
Because of this due diligence. And their competitors were coming in around $30,000, $35,000, $40,000. So, because the record keepers don't want to lose the business. So now is a really good time because the market is very competitive. There's been some consolidation of record keepers. So now is a really good time for employers to evaluate getting into looking at a record keeper or evaluating their retirement plan. For someone that, from a career standpoint, majoring in finance is an area that somebody could look at. A certified financial planner, CFP designation, get a designation in financial planning. Right now, financial planners are extremely busy. A financial planner typically will work with an employee one-on-one to help manage their retirement or their investments for them, not just retirement, but all of their investments. So financial planner, as a career, that's a very good career for people with again, majoring in finance or accounting. There are certain exams you have to take to be able to do that. We've seen also the actuarial pension arena is not as lucrative as it used to be because a lot of the actuarial sciences were used for the old pension cert plans. Though a lot of the old pension plans are not as robust and they're not as many as there used to be. So we're not seeing as much in the actuarial field. There's still pension plans out there, but the real focus has been on these 401k, 403b plans. And so focusing in the finance arena, accounting, those are the two areas that can help doing some internships with with advisor firms, helps doing internships with record keepers, kind of getting into that arena. And I can tell you also today, a lot of record keepers are looking for people.
Right.
There's been a lot of that. The Great Resignation has affected them too. So they're really looking to hire people to work with them. And the final thing I'll say is most of these, all of these plans are subject to certain certifications you have to pass. You have to have. There's something called FINRA. So you have to pass when you're hired these financial services exams to still be maintained working for an employer because they look at the appropriateness of what you say, what you do, et cetera. So even after you're hired, you do have to make sure you pass these not national exams to be maintained.
And to be clear, when you have passed those exams, it also makes you more marketable in the marketplace. So that's great.
Exactly.
Mike Rhim, I really appreciate you having dropped so much knowledge on us today. Really appreciate it. Again, Michael Rhim is with PRM Consulting. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find PRM Consulting on the internet. Mike, you have an outstanding weekend, and thanks again.
Appreciate it, Darge. Well, thanks for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right.